Good morning, everyone. This is meeting number 74 of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, Thursday, October 26, 2017. The mornings we don't have as big a crowd in the audience, but for all of us as committee members and also those in the audience, if you have devices similar to this, a cell phone or communication device, please just put it on vibrate or on airplane mode. We're televised today, and we would prefer not being disturbed, especially with the technical around the electronics. In our first hour today, we will be considering the Special Examination Report, Canadian Museum of Nature, from the spring 2017 reports of the Auditor General of Canada. As witnesses, we have from the Office of the Auditor General, Mr. Michael Ferguson, Auditor General of Canada, and Etienne Mette, Principal. From Canadian Museum of Nature, we have Margaret Beckel, President and Chief Executive Officer. We have Mr. Stephen Henley, Chair, Board of Trustees, and Mr. Charles Bloom, Vice President, Corporate Services. I'm just going to maybe tell our committee members that because there will be votes in the second hour, this may be 10 or 15 minutes shorter. We may make this a little briefer. As I went through the Auditor General's report, it looked pretty favorable, and so I think it's a good thing that we have a meeting when there's favorable reports. Not that it is perfect, but in a way. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Ms. Beckel and to the presentation that Mr. Ferguson. We'll go to Mr. Ferguson first. We have a report from our Auditor General.
Thank you. Monsieur le Président, je vous remercie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for this opportunity to discuss our special examination of the Canadian Museum of Nature. As you know, a special examination seeks to determine whether a Crown corporation's systems and practices provide reasonable assurance that its assets are safeguarded and controlled, its resources are managed economically and efficiently, and its operations are carried out effectively.
Between July 2015 and April 2016. Overall, we found that the Canadian Museum of Nature had in place good corporate management practices for strategic and operational planning and for performance measurement and reporting. However, we identified room for improvement in other areas. In particular, we found that the Board of Trustees didn't receive the information it needed to monitor compliance with laws, regulations, and key corporate policies, and to monitor the implementation of risk mitigation strategies. We also found that the corporation's efforts to ensure the timely renewal of board appointments were not successful, something that was beyond the corporation's control. Our examination identified that the corporation had good systems and practices to manage its operations, most notably its research projects. However, it didn't establish a plan, including priorities and achievable milestones, to identify and digitize specimens in its collections. This finding is important because the full scientific value of specimens can only be realized if they are identified, and the digitization of collection requires a long-term effort. Furthermore, the corporation didn't have a conservation plan for its collections and didn't fully document its preservation practices and activities. As a result, it had to depend on the knowledge of staff members to ensure that conservation needs were met.
We also found insufficient project management practices for the replacement of 2 information systems supporting the corporation's operations, namely the admission system and the collections management system. These projects had undefined timelines, escalating cost estimates, lack of documentation, and limited information for senior management. This finding matters because sound project management practices ensure timely system management. within set budgets and with the expected benefits. The corporation agreed with all of our recommendations and prepared an action plan in response to our concerns. However, because our audit work was completed in April 2016, I cannot comment on any actions that the corporation has taken since.
Opening remarks. Would be pleased to answer any questions the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ferguson, again. And we'll now turn to Mr. Henley, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Stephen Henley, Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Canadian Museum of Nature. I'm joined today with Meg Beckel, President and CEO of the museum, and Charles Bloom, Vice President of Corporate Services. At the outset, I'd like to assure the committee that I and the entire board take the recommendations of the special examination seriously and have and will be monitoring management's execution of its action plan. I'll speak briefly about the museum and then hand over to Meg, who will speak to the action plans from the recommendations. We are Canada's National Museum of Natural History and Natural Science, one of 6 national museum not-for-profit corporations. Our museum dates back 160 years to the Geological Survey of Canada. The doors of the current museum building originally opened in 1912, and a $230,000 million renovation was completed in 2010, resulting in what now is a state-of-the-art museum building of international first rank. We receive over 500,000 visitors per year, and along with other national museums, are the leading tourist attractions in the national capital. Like the other museums, we provide education-based offering within the entertainment and leisure sector. But perhaps unlike the other museums, at the heart is scientific research. We are a national leader in research and have strong international presence, representing Canada in many scientific bodies. The government-funded scientists and experts at our research facility in Gatineau, Quebec, maintain and provide access to a scientific collection of 14.6 million specimens that tell the story of Canada's natural heritage and history. These cover all aspects of the natural world: botany, zoology, mineralogy, and paleontology. I will now hand over the President and CEO, Meg Beckel, to speak to the business operations and the special examination.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning, Mr. Chair and honourable members. The Canadian Museum of Nature is a $36 million business. As a not-for-profit Crown corporation, the museum relies on government funding, commercial revenues, and donor and sponsorship support to cover operating costs and the required capital investment for our 2 buildings. Government support for operating funding has been frozen for the last 4 years. Commercial revenue and donor sponsor contributions have filled the gap created by rising costs, such that government funding has decreased from over 90% of operating funding to 75% today. We achieved this through dramatic increases in museum attendance, driven by an aggressive redefinition of our value and of our business processes. The museum welcomed and worked closely with the special examination team. For an enterprise of our size, the special examination represents a substantive investment in operational oversight that no business of our size outside of government purview could ever afford. So we see it as an extraordinary benefit that we aim to maximize. While the special examination report was overwhelmingly positive, it did indeed note need for improvements in the areas of governance, IT security policy, and project management. The Auditor General recommended that the museum have a more formal project management practice when replacing systems related to operations. The museum agrees. We reviewed our existing project management approach to ensure that our practices are both cost-effective and appropriate relative to the nature, complexity, risk, and cost of a project. And I'm pleased to report that we also introduced an updated approach to documentation of project initiation at the executive management level. Secondly, the OAG recommended a process be established to ensure the Board of Trustees enhance its monitoring of the corporation's compliance with policy, acts, and regulations. The corporation agrees, and I'm pleased to report we now provide an annual documentation assuring compliance at our February Audit and Finance Committee meetings. In addition, the operations update for board and management now more clearly reference actions related to risks. With respect to board governance, a new process for board selection was launched by the government in November 2016, which demands less of the museum than what was recommended by the Special Examination Report. I'm pleased to report that the corporation has been in close communication with Canadian Heritage, and we look forward to an imminent conclusion of the appointment process. Lastly, the OAG report recommended that our IT security policy requirements be met, including the testing of our business continuity plan and our IT disaster recovery plan. The corporation agrees, and last year we made significant investments upgrading our IT systems, which are key to adhering to our IT policy. And as planned, we have completed the testing of both plans just this week. This has been verified by a third party, demonstrating we have effectively completed these important components of our IT strategy. And in addition, we continue to undertake museum-wide training on security awareness, specifically focusing on phishing and ransomware. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today, and we welcome any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Beckel, and we'll move into the first round of questioning. The first round is a 7-minute round, and we will have a split with Ms. Shanahan and Mr. Area. Ms. Shanahan, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much to everyone who's here this morning. I was one of the members who actually pushed that we would see you, and I'm so glad that we have the time in our schedule to do so, because we have the opportunity as the Public Accounts Committee to see, of course, agencies and departments from across the government, and every once in a while we like to see an agency that, by and large, has received a good Auditor General's report, but also where there's some lessons to be learned, and I think that that's what we want to focus on here this morning. So I just want to ask the Auditor General, in your remarks, Mr. Ferguson, in paragraph 4, you said something about we found that the corporation's efforts to ensure the timely renewal of board appointments were not successful, something that was beyond the corporation's control. What did you mean by that?
Well, Mr. Chair, in the course of the audit, we identified that I believe there was one position vacant at the time that we looked at the composition of the board, and there were a number of others. I believe it was 6, where the members of the board were still serving, even though the term of their appointment had expired, but they were still able to serve, but they didn't have a specified term anymore. So, you know, and that's something that we see in a number of organizations, and it's something that concerns us because we believe that board members, you know, vacancies should be filled, and they should be filled with people with specific terms, and all of those, you know, aspects of board appointments should be, you know, well understood and adhered to. But obviously, the board of the museum can't do anything about the actual appointments because the board doesn't control the appointments. They're governor and council appointments. But we did identify that the museum had raised the issue, had identified the issue, but there was nothing more that they could do because, again, they aren't in control of the appointments.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Ferguson, and clearly that has been a theme that we have seen over the past 2 years. Empty board seats cannot lead to good governance, and I think we're only fortunate that has been addressed. And indeed, in the case of the Museum of Nature, that enough corporate knowledge remained at the museum that you could continue with your good work. So that brings me to the whole challenge of our technology and how you were able to deal with that. So it is a challenge. I get it. It's not something I can just imagine the number of specimens that you have at the museum. Can you speak to us a little bit about what those initial challenges are and how you are addressing them? Whoever is able to take that.
And this is with regard to the management of the collections system?
Yes, particularly because we're talking about big bucks here when we're talking about scientific research projects and the leadership role that you have.
Yeah, great question, thank you. We have been using a system for managing the data and housing the data about our 14.6 million specimen collection.
And could I just ask you for a moment, Mrs. Beckel, what
Yes.
is the budget for the IT transformation?
Oh,
How much money are we talking about?
Sure. The system itself, the total budget was $300,000.
Okay,
So
all
it's,
right.
it's,
So,
a, it's,
so
a,
not,
it's a very modest budget
Yeah.
for system conversion because it was converting an existing database management system into a new database management system. And it's one that we're converting over a number of years. And so the cost per year is less than $100,000 per year during the run of the project. And it's important that it's phased over time because of the drain on staff time. Because we're doing the project with the existing staff resources that we have, which for us was the best way to do it because they're the owners and the users of the data and of the system afterwards, rather than bringing in outsiders.
interesting. So how did you address training? And I think I'm going to toss it over to Mr. Aria because that's more his expertise too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, the Auditor General mentioned that the Board of Trustees did not receive information to monitor compliance with laws. In my past career, I have found that many charitable organizations and not-for-profit organizations sometimes do not train or brief the Board of Trustees adequately. I know in your case, the amounts involved, for example, in managing the investments is quite modest. However, under the Ontario Trustees Act, every single trustee is individually and personally responsible for any of the mismanagement that may take place. So it's very, very important. I know you guys are running a good show, and I did see in your report that you are managing these investments through Community Foundation of Ottawa. That gives a arm's length, but even then the trustees need to be updated and briefed on their responsibilities. I hope it is done by now. And the second question which I had was, which my colleague already touched on, is on the project management practices. Irrespective of the modest size or the big size of the project, it's important that we have the timeline so that there's no cost overruns. In your case, even a small cost overruns will dent a significant part of your budget.
In terms of the first comment with regard to the board oversight, our Finance and Audit Committee is chaired by Ron Calderoni, who I think Etienne would agree is very diligent about the role of the Board of Trustees in overseeing all financial matters of the institution. And that was never put into question during the audit.
Absolutely. The point I was trying to make is not whether you guys are diligent or not, but it is the duty of the corporations to update the trustees on their roles, responsibility, and keep them in.
Yes, yeah, and what was absolutely fair is we were working on an inventory of regulations and acts that the Museum of Nature as a Crown Corporation needs to be compliant with. And so we did come up with an inventory from the Museums Act to the Financial Administration Act to the Species at Risk Act to the Plant Protection Act and the Pest Control Act. We have a unique set of acts and regulations that, as a natural history museum, we need to ensure the board that we are compliant with. And although my management does the review, we're now sharing that regularly with the board so that the board is assured that we are indeed compliant with some of these unique acts and regulations that are unique to us as a corporation. And with regard to the oversight on the IT project, most of the changes in the scope and the cost of our system investments were through management choice. We were making specific decisions and choices about the components that we wanted to bolt onto the system that we selected. And in one case, it was actually the choice of provider. After going out to tender, we discovered a provider that we had never heard of before, and it was one that would be ideally suited to meeting the needs of the institution, but it did cost more. And so once again, the change in budget was a management choice based on meeting the needs of the institution and based on the resources available.
Thank you very much, Ms. Beckel. We'll now move to Monsieur Deltel. Monsieur Deltel, welcome. You have...
Mr. Tell, you have 7 minutes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, your French does you honor.
First of all, Mr. Ferguson and Mr. Henley, this is a good report. Very interesting and good result, good answer to each and every point rise up in this report. I have three concerns. Dans un premier temps, pour faire honneur.
First, I will speak in French to do honor to Mr. Sorensen. First, the vacant positions in the Board of Trustees. I'll let you get settled with your headset there.
Michelle, if I could have you help assist them with the head. You got
Is
it?
that correct? C'est correct maintenant?
All right, can we have the translation speak into the
Oui,
mic,
tout
please?
est beau. Parfait, merci mon Dieu. J'arrive au même moment en plus.
Yes, we have to make sure. Hello. So, I would like to talk about the recommendation 25, which concerns vacant trustee positions on the board. First, I'd like to know, for you, is it really difficult to operate if you don't have the necessary number of trustees that you'd like to have? Or are you able to run your operations with this lack of personnel on the Board of Trustees? Rather than when you have a full Board of Trustees?
Quite timely and very appropriate. The Board of Trustees is appointed on a regional basis to represent districts in Canada from coast to coast. It's also acknowledged that the Board of Trustees requires various skill sets, from law to marketing to IT to governance and nomination, so on and so forth. The current board has trustees who are on their third term, many on their second term, a number of regions in the country not represented. And this has been the case since my appointment 4.5 years ago. When you only have a core of trustees who are carrying a heavier load, it does impact your ability to to drive down as far as maybe a board might want to. We have a core of individuals who sit on the Governance and Nominating Committee. We have a core of individuals who sit on Audit and Finance. And then we have the same core at the board carrying the weight again. I think we've done these people an injustice, a real serious injustice, by continuing to rely on them and their good nature and time to deliver what we need in governance at the institution. It's really important that the right horsepower is put behind our crown corporations and our not-for-profits and our museums. I've had over 30 years of not-for-profit experience. It's tough enough when you got a full team. It's equally as much harder when you don't have a full team. So we have been working with one hand behind our back, if I could put it that way. So I very much appreciate your question, and we continue to hope. Museums don't seem to have a great importance in the country. That's why my dialogue around the museum, I've changed it to natural science. Science seems to have more of a dialogue now, and that's what the museum is about. So I do hope that this committee can extend some very positive messaging around that into the process, because I'm sure it's not only affecting the Canadian Museum of Nature, I'm sure it's affecting many of our crowns and organizations, and it's unfortunate, and let's just leave it at that.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Henley. Thank you to say that my question was good, but thank you so much for your answer. Your answer was better than my question. Let's talk about les technologies de l'information.
Talk about IT. I'd like to know, because the report mentions some difficulties with your website and that there wasn't all the necessary information. Let me explain. I have a historical training background, and I often remember when I was at school, we didn't have internet or Google at the time. So we spent days finding the information that we'd find now in 3 or 4 minutes on Google. So for this, we have to have museums online as much as possible and to have access that is easy to information. And young people have to have this desire to learn and to go to the museum. So what's your game plan to make sure that your website and the information online is as strong and as accessible as possible?
Our website is an absolutely critical communication tool, as you say, not only for disseminating knowledge, but also for holding the data on our collection, sharing it with not only young people and the general public, but also sharing it with researchers, government, public policymakers around the world. But it's also an important marketing tool. Our website is currently going through a complete and total review process, and this was something that was underway already when the special examination was done, and it certainly validated the need for us to do a complete refresh of what we call our content management system, which is what drives and hosts our website. We are currently in a process where we have brought in expert advice in content management systems, and they're looking at what we currently have, what our needs are, what the needs of our users and stakeholders are, and then they'll make a recommendation for what kind of a content management system would be in the best interests of the museum, and then we will go out to market to procure a new system, and then we'll go through an implementation and a training process. We currently use Drupal, which is one of the many content management systems that host websites. We're on Drupal 6. I think the market is already on to Drupal 8. So we are behind. But like all museums, we're very good at eking out every last morsel of usefulness of whatever it is we invest in. And I think we've had this one long enough. So the process is well underway.
Thank you, Mr. Diltel. Mr. Christofferson, you have 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you all very much for your attendance. I'd like to start with just putting the focus of the audit in front of us. Page 3, paragraph 9. Quote, our objective for this audit was to determine whether the systems and practices we selected for examination at the Canadian Museum of Nature were providing it with reasonable assurance that its assets were safeguarded and controlled, its resources were managed economically and efficiently, and its operations were carried out effectively as required by Section 138 of the Financial Administration Act. Now we fast forward to the conclusion on page 19. Paragraph 59. In our opinion, this would be the Auditor General's opinion, in our opinion, based on the criteria established, there were no significant deficiencies in the Canadian Museum of Nature's systems and practices that we examined for corporate management and operations management. We concluded that the corporation has maintained these systems and practices during the period covered by the audit in a manner that provided the reasonable assurance required under Section 138 of the Financial Administration Act. This just makes my day. I love this. I do. As much as people see me get passionate when I'm angry about deficiencies, at the end of the day, what really excites me is when we get it right, and you folks are getting it right. Not only that, but the previous audit from 2007, we do our homework. Summary of the report, page 3, paragraph 9. As stated in our special, this is February 21st, 2007, 10 years ago. As stated in our special examination opinion, we concluded that during the period under examination, the systems and practices of the Canadian Museum of Nature were designed and operated in a way that provided reasonable assurance that assets were safeguarded and controlled, resources managed economically and efficiently, and operations carried out effectively. The next paragraph goes back and references 2002. Our 2002 special examination report identified no significant deficiencies. We did, however, suggest improvements on 3 key areas. Chair, I got to tell you, given the fact that there's no such thing as a perfect audit. No such thing. You guys are doing something really right over there. You really are. And that's why I want to add as much enthusiasm as I can, because in my opinion, this system only works when we are being totally nonpartisan and fair-minded. And that is when people roll in here and they're not taking care of the taxpayers' money, we're going to come down on them like a ton of bricks. Conversely, when somebody comes in here and they have been consistently, over the years and decades, doing a good job, we need to shout that from the rooftops too, because bureaucracy needs to know that this is not an impossible game, that you can't win with public accounts. Yes, you can. Do the job the way it needs to be done, and you're going to be sweet with us. So, you know what? My colleagues have raised some of the areas that need improvement, and there always is. But having given some of the nightmares that I have dealt with over the last 13 years on this committee, this is just so sweet because it shows that we are not asking more than what is reasonably expected of the bureaucracy on behalf of the people who, quite frankly, are paying the freight. So I only have a couple of open-ended questions, and you can answer any way you get. This is as easy as it ever gets from me. You can say anything you want. I'm likely going to be happy. My question would be this to Madame Beckel and Monsieur Henley, both of you from the staff perspective and the board perspective. What is it about, talk to me about your culture in both those entities, because to go 15 years and longer and keep getting things right, you've got the right culture. It's not just individuals and it's not just luck. So talk to me about those two cultures that you have that brag. Tell me why you're so wonderful. And then, if you've got any time left, perhaps what you intend to do to, again, up your game and deal with the helpful criticisms that the Auditor General has made. Thank you, Chair. And thank you on behalf of the Canadian people. You're doing exactly what is asked of you, and we appreciate it. So, floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Mr. Henley.
Very, very much appreciate your comments. Well, I believe I'm speaking for the Board of Trustees when I believe across the table there's a firm belief that culture eats strategy for breakfast, period. Ours was a venerable, very old institution of 160 years. We were challenged to move from appropriation to enterprise, which is a new paradigm in a very old institution that just relied on public finance. So in order to do that over a continuum, you have to move the culture bar to allow your staff, allow your management to take full ownership of the museum as if it was theirs. And I'm going to leave that comment and pass it to Meg now.
Well, I often introduce myself as the individual who has the best job in Canada, because when you're responsible for leading an institution that holds the record of nature over time and has the responsibility to inspire understanding and respect for nature, for a better natural future. It doesn't get any better than that. And every single person that works at the Canadian Museum of Nature believes in that. We are an institution filled with people who are absolutely passionate about our purpose. And it's the staff of the institution, the board, the volunteers, our research associates, our collaborators, our partners. It is a culture of passion for our purpose. And although we have had to change how we do what we do, for example, more recently, when your financial structure is no longer sustainable, just given the realities of how we're funded, everybody had to see why that was important, to what end. And we believe in sort of open, transparent communications. And so we open the books Everybody sees what the budget looks like. Everybody understands what the challenges are financially. And everybody is brought along in understanding how we are going to do things differently, because they already know why, and they already believe in the why. And when you think of any institution, I call it the sort of the P's, the W's, and the C's. You need people who are passionate for your purpose. Everybody has to understand the where, what, when, and why. But then you have to have people who all embrace the character attributes that make that successful. And so we're an institution filled with people who are curious, who are creative. They're also incredibly collaborative, and they are collegial, but increasingly they're courageous. And so we are increasingly taking on risks. And so what's been interesting as I get to know our colleagues in the OAG is that we openly and freely use the word risk-taking, but it's informed risk-taking. And this calms Etienne and his colleagues down. We're not just willy-nilly taking risks wildly, but we do need to take more and more risks and experiment in how we do things. And so to brag, part of that includes how we share the species that we have in our collection so that people can get excited about what it is that is the evidence of nature over time. And so I encourage all of you, in whatever time you have, to come and see two of the specimens that I brought from our collection with permission from the curators at Etienne. And one is a fossilized fish specimen from the Champlain Sea. And all of us, this space used to be underneath the Champlain Sea tens of thousands of years ago. And this is just one fossilized species evidence of that fact. I also brought a plant specimen collected by Catherine Parr Traill in the late 1800s. And it's a wonderful story of a pioneering woman who collected plants as something to do. And we now have her collection and all of the notes that she wrote about that. That's the kind of stuff we can share. So I know I went over time bragging, but I was invited to brag.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to go to Mr. Massé for a very short question. I see our next guest is here with us too. So go ahead, Mr. Massé.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, this comment and the question from our colleague allowed us to make some conclusions. But I have a question I'd like to ask you. I'm from a region in the east of Quebec in Gaspésie, and sometimes it's really hard for many people in the region to visit the Museum of Nature given the distance. To repeat what my colleague, what Mr. Deltel was saying earlier, digitalization of specimens is one way that gives people access to or some or all of the collection to allow our young people to discover what the museum has to offer. So with this in mind, I'd like to ask you a question. Mr. Ferguson made a statement saying that the museum did not have a plan with priorities to identify and digitalize specimens from the collection. So roughly 75% of the collection still has to be digitalized. I wonder what difficulties you'll have to overcome to be able to make this specimens accessible and to be able to digitalize them, to share them.
Great question. Thank you very much. Digitizing the collection takes different components. One of it is having the IT, information technology infrastructure that will support the volume of data that we're creating. And so first and foremost, we recently made some investments in our IT infrastructure, so we actually have the storage room to house all of the data that we are digitizing. So that was one thing that we have done and we will need to continue to do. The second is having a database, a robust database system that can hold all of the data. And so our old system is now is currently being converted to a new system, and one that is suited to a natural history collection, and then one that is user-friendly enough that we can actually push the data out into user-friendly systems that allow anyone to download data about our collection. The third, though, is the people time, the person time to actually input the data into the system, and that is our challenge, and it absolutely is our challenge. It has been our challenge. We have a 14.6 million specimen collection that is broken down into 3.25 million lots. A jar of parasites is a single lot filled with 2,000 specimens, so you get the sense of the ratios. This morning, I don't know why I chose parasites, but there it is. And we have about 825,000 of 3.25 million specimens now digitized. But that doesn't mean that they're yet available for every single individual, because the download, the Collections Online system, is one that will also need to be updated on a continuous basis. And this is something that our IT department, led by Charles as our VP Corporate Services, is looking at how we ensure that the database management system we're putting all of our specimen data on can also be converted and fed into the user-friendly systems. And it's an ongoing challenge. We're throwing sort of $60,000 a year at it. At that rate, it would take us 100 years to digitize the rest of the collection. And we recognize, and it keeps growing, because the scientists keep going out and collecting more stuff.
We've done an estimate of the digitization of our remaining collection, and if you can let me know where I can find about $22 or $23 million, give me a call.
Could.
Please.
Chair,
Because that's what it's going to cost. But like yourself, I'm from a region, and I've always had a vision that we can have digital museums in this country, in the regions, if we got our act together. And thank you for the question, because it's always been a passion of mine to see our museum virtually on the coast of British Columbia, down the St. Lawrence Seaway, on the Atlantic coastline, and in the north. And I do believe it's achievable.
Thank you, Mr. Henley. Much appreciated. I'm fortunate enough that I'm the father of 4 young boys, and they'll be visiting me this weekend. So that's our plan, to visit the museum over the weekend. So thank you very much.
Very much, all. I don't have any other questions. Just a couple of comments. I had a constituent in town yesterday that attended a different museum in Ottawa, and I've told all my constituents, we're so blessed, really, in this region to have some of the best museums in the world. They went to a different museum and were very disappointed when they came back, actually, the big Museum of History. And they said that there wasn't a lot of people there. That wasn't the problem, but they were just disappointed, and to the extent where they said they wouldn't even be encouraging people to go there. That bothered me when they said that, because they are fairly influential and they carry a lot of weight when they go home. How is your usership? Is it not so much a marketing strategy, but I know likewise, Mr. Massé, when my children were younger, they loved, that out at your museum, I think they enjoyed that one more than some of the other ones as well. But it's not as well known. Is this a fact, or?
It's absolutely a fact. One thing that's interesting is the Canadian Museum of Nature visitorship, say in 2010 on average, was about 250,000 visitors a year. It's now up to 500,000 visitors a year. So the visitorship has increased substantially. But the awareness of the Canadian Museum of Nature amongst citizens across Canada is very low. When we surveyed it in 2011, it was 4% of those surveyed unaided awareness. Now, it's gone up to 6%. So I like to say it went up 50%.
Right.
But it's still only 6%, whereas the awareness of the Canadian Museum of History is 13%. But with history and war and all of the stories, the more you're in the news, the more the awareness is. So we have lots of work to do to raise that awareness. And we're doing that by sending traveling exhibits to all kinds of communities across Canada, getting our research finds in the news. Who knew that there were camels in the Arctic? That was one of our researchers' finds, and we have evidence of that find in our Arctic gallery. But it's a constant exercise to make sure that people know that there is a National Museum of Natural History and Natural Sciences. However, the good news is that everything is going up, and there's more and more visitorship, and the satisfaction, we're consistently getting a 9 out of 10 in visitor satisfaction, and more than 9 out of 10 say they're going to recommend a visit to the Museum of Nature to somebody else. And we're fortunate we appeal to the young and to the young at heart.
Good.
So we get them all.
Well, thank you. We know that for many years there was a renovation going on there from, I think, 04 to, or 06 to 10, and it was extensive, and I think, 216 or $260 million put into it. So it is a beautiful place, and it should really attract. Just one other little tidbit of trivia for members, and then we're going to suspend and go to our next guest. But after the Great Fire in 1916, Parliament couldn't convene here, so we went to this museum, and that's where Parliament sat for I don't know how long, but they sat there 4 years. For 4 years.
Let me add, Mr. Chair, that that's when the Temporary Income Tax Act was introduced to Canada.
Right, okay, right out at the museum. Yeah, they probably knew the $260 million of renovations was coming. So they had to prepare. But in a way, we thank you for that many years ago. And I guess probably they had to move some old relics out at the time so other old relics could move in. But in a way, during that, okay, good.
And thanks to the analysts for letting me know.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for attending here. All right. Thank you very much for attending here this morning. We appreciate you being here. We commend you, and as you continue in your work to meet some of the, I don't like using the word concerns, but some of the areas of the Auditor General's report where things can be improved, we encourage you on that. So we're going to suspend, and we'll allow you to take your exit, and then we will go in camera for the next hour. I think.